Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss Night Fever. It is by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, and it was actually recommended to us by Robin, so it's Robin's fault that we're all here. But Robin, will you start us off with an introduction?
Yeah, sure. I'm Robin, and I have a very small YouTube channel that's Bookends and Biscuits, where I usually discuss sci-fi. So this isn't sci-fi, but I just saw it and was completely taken by the cover, so had to pick it up. So very excited to discuss it with these guys today.
Nice. And Chris?
Yeah, my name's Chris Moen, sometimes YouTuber, sometimes appear in other people's chats. I think we're having a sick off here today in terms of who's going to mute and cough as much as we can. But yes, I was very taken with Robin's holding of the cover and rubbing the hard case cover and kind of doing this very tactile thing, because this is a very beautiful hardcover edition of this comic, and is one of those things that just will accompany you to bed at night. It's like a replacement for a fluffy toy these days. It's like a nice hardcover graphic novel.
What kind of podcast is this? I don't know. Did I come the wrong one?
I'm sorry.
And Jared.
I'm Jared. I have an even smaller YouTube channel, The Fantasy Thinker, and I also do a blog on thepagechewing.com. Having fun doing that. And I liked how we all held up the book and felt it, even though nobody can see us, but
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
It's a habit.
Yeah, I'm also gonna show off to people here. Oh my god, Mike! Is yours signed? Mine's signed.
Oh,
I didn't realise it.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
By which one?
By both.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I was very excited. It's one of those things where it obviously probably somewhere told me that it was a signed edition, but I didn't realise until I got home.
Mine's useless now. I'm throwing it out. I don't like it.
Nice. So, Robin, since you started it, what are your thoughts on this one?
Wow. Okay.
Put you on the spot.
You really did. As I said, it was completely the cover that took me in. It's obviously got a very dark picture of a man with a bright mask, and he's just holding a knife. And from the other side of the bookshop, it just looked so intriguing. I absolutely adored this story. I found it really intriguing, a little bit disturbing, and it's going to sound really, really stupid, kind of relatable. I don't know if anyone else felt that. Thought processes he goes through and the things that he has. I thought that's actually nowadays I think it's something that a lot of people would probably feel was kind of relatable, to be honest. So yeah, I'll hand it off to someone else if anyone else, I don't know, is going to be brave and say they agree.
Well, I think that's really interesting, because I read this, got to the end and went, especially when you read the note from Brubaker at the back, I think when he talks about the origin of the story and how he thought about it. To me, this is the most rote male fantasy thing of for just a couple of minutes living somebody else's life and kind of expression,
Yep.
etc. And I was interested to see if that related to a female reader. Like that, to me, that was one of the most interesting things that I, because obviously, I live inside the mind of a male, I think, most of the time. And actually, so I can kind of see that does definitely relate to me, but actually does that relate actually outside and across the sexes. So actually, when I was sitting going, hope Robin doesn't forget to come for this, because this is a very interesting perspective on what I think is a very male-based fantasy, but obviously is not, if you know what I mean.
That's interesting, because
Yeah,
because I read it and I looked at this as this is the ultimate midlife crisis for this guy. He's
Yep, absolutely.
He's on this business trip, but he starts getting into this role that he inadvertently took on, and he's living a dream as far as outside of his normal life. And he's an action hero, and he's a swarthy gambler, and he has all this stuff going right to make excitement, until it doesn't go right. But
You kind of know, though, that it's just a crash course, right? Like, it's, this won't end well, like the whole time. Like, he's enjoying himself and he's going through this adventure. But I do think It is really. I think it's. I'm glad you said it first, Rob, because I was reading it like, because I think a lot of it was like, like you feel like a success and a failure at the same time all the time. I think it's something that's I think everyone can relate to in some way, and just kind of the feeling of being stuck in this day-to-day mundane existence. I think the caveman. I think it's interesting because they reference the caveman kind of primal urges and and they also mention like lizard brain, like we have lizard brains. Humans are we're so simple, but they also talk about how complex we are too at the same time. So it was interesting to see because we get both sides of it. Like we're these tiny lizard brain people, just kind of living our lives, and we're also these complex, multifaceted creatures at the same time.
Yeah, and it's wrapped up nicely in one of the strings of dialogue right in the beginning, where somebody was talking about his kids, and they said, "Oh, they're at a great age," and he's just like, "I guess." And then one of his coworkers yells at him. He's like, and she says, "You have it all. You have it made. Try to cheer up about it." And I thought that was a really kind of the theme of the book, and it relates to that. That being a success but not really grabbing it and appreciating it.
I think it's all there's that thing as well. You wake up one day and you're somewhere and you're obviously not doing badly, but you're like, how did I end up here? You could have done so many other things, and then but you didn't because you never got around to it. Also, so that the escapism of like going off and trying all these other things you haven't done. It's that. I think it's just the escape, isn't it, from your day-to-day life, and his poor wife. But
Yeah.
But that's the bit I really liked about it, insofar as it still made him relatable because his life was going down this complete othering path of like being the spy and all the rest of it. But he still had this moments of reflection of, God, do you remember me and my wife used to go and I used to send her postcards, and then he sits down to send her the postcards, so he isn't too totally diverse from his reality. It just so happens it's nearly as if, he turns into the werewolf at night. As soon as the witching hour comes, he becomes a different person. And even the moments, like if you think about the midlife crisis, the typical male midlife crisis, there would be a lot of sex and all of that kind of stuff with it. And whereas in this case for him, it's very much, I have no intentions of sleeping with you, it's fine. Like, just didn't find, he like had boundaries within this like ridiculous male fantasy world that he was kind of doing. So it sort of made him like this relatable loser that he set up kind of at the start, and not this cool guy from the start that went in a different direction.
I also wondered when we got to the end of the story, did any of this actually happen?
Well, I think before we started for it, I said there was one thing that I remembered in this book that I had when I picked up the second time, and I'm just going to put it out there, which is the aliens. And I'm like, that to me made it feel like maybe it was moving into that fantasy realm of actually did exactly that. Did this actually happen, or was this just, I don't know, a mental breakdown or whatever? Because it didn't really get resolved, I guess. It just kind of happened at the party, and then they kind of just moved on, and then obviously the book, and I was like, yeah, that made it kind of seem a little bit otherworldly to me. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, he does have a bullet hole in his suit jacket.
That's right.
Yeah, and he is reading the newspapers on the plane flight home. Now, whether or not he's just using that as part of his fantasy, the newspaper stories or not, but...
Does that mean aliens are real?
I blamed that on the drugs at the first time around.
Yeah.
Because he was,
yeah,
because the guy told him, don't drink that, stuff at the bar, so I kind of blamed the aliens on the drugs, but if he was using the papers to fuel his fantasy in narrating this story to us, then maybe he is just making it all up. Who knows? I think that's up for us to decide.
Well, he gives it some legitimacy by shaving it in. He does a whole Clark Kent thing at the end. If they didn't recognise me because I shaved, you know. And when he gets home and tells his wife, you know, what happened to you? Why'd you shave? And she goes, well, the aliens and the, you know, and that's why I sent you a postcard. The aliens told me to do it. And she'll go, okay, if you don't want to tell me what happened, that's fine, you know.
The aliens told me to do it.
Yeah.
So I think another part of it was that I wondered if it was real, is this whole dream, the dream that he had, that he thinks that this, I forget his name, the author stole from him.
Or Dan? Or...
Yeah. Den Pickett?
Dennis, short for Dennis, yeah.
Yeah, Den Pickett.
Can't.
Yeah.
Dan Pickett, the guy who ended up
Curiously
horrifically murdered
flicking
at
through
the end.
books.
But yes, at the end when he's... See, I have to say, at the start of the book, I thought this book was going to be one of those books that you read and everybody has a slightly different take on the story. I thought the book itself was going to be mystical and magical, you know, in some way, in that people could... was projecting into people's own brains, and it was like a mind-reading thing. So actually, when that came back around at the end, I was like, well, that's what I thought this whole thing was going to be about in the first place, and that it goes forward. But yeah, those two tail end parts of the story weren't really investigated, if that makes sense. You know, it was very much kind of like this intro and this coda piece to kind of tie his insanity together, or whatever happens in the middle here in some ways, or even kind of expunge it from him to say, oh, I'm back on the plane again, I'm going home, I can leave all that behind with the murdering people and the stabbing the people and the masks.
Yeah, it happened in another country. It's, you know.
Exactly. What happened in Vegas? Stay in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was surprised though when, you know, he just kind of wanders into this bar or into this like underground society, and he's pretty, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people would just kind of wander in and be like, oh yeah, I'm Griffin. Like, that's me, you know, like.
Yeah, he pointed to the clipboard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said, that's me.
Sort of given away that it wasn't him. I thought, you know, because if you turn up to the thing and what's your name, you say your name, they'll let you in. You don't go, yeah, it's fourth down on the list, because it just kind of gives away that you just read the list to find a name. I don't know. But I think, again, that plays in the fact that this guy isn't that suave. He isn't that cool. He just kind of was out adventuring, walking the streets to see where it would take him, to see what would happen if I do this, as a midlife crisis does.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, he was being pretty ballsy by trying it, I guess, but or just having the courage to try it and see where it led him. But I certainly won't be following any masked people around, I don't think. Maybe I will now. I don't know. But yeah, that's I guess yeah. See, he was just seeing where the night took him. But, yeah. I don't know.
He is a salesman, and salesmen are used to, you know, not telling the truth, and
Oh boy, controversial.
Controversial. Yeah. Pushing the truth, maybe. I don't know. So, you know, and he was very bored doing his job. Like he said, he could do it in his sleep, and you have that. Maybe he had that notion that if you just act like you belong, people will ignore you. You know, if you've ever walked anywhere in a hotel or airport and like that, if you go into an area that's not exactly that's kind of restricted, if you just act like you belong, if you walk through the kitchen of a hotel and act like you belong there, most people will ignore you. And I think he kind of applied the same logic there.
Jared's done this. Jared's definitely done this.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Shh.
But Jared brings the masks.
He
He's
does.
ready.
It's the Mission Impossible one. I am Tom Cruise.
I didn't really think too much about the midlife crisis thing, but you're right, because he does talk about how when he was young, the people he would associate with. He just kind of he made him feel like he was invincible or he could get away with anything too. So
yeah, because he was comparing that other guy to a childhood friend who was just as like crazy, or who was like kind of the leader of the antics, and he would always thrill in going along with it, and so he was kind of doing the same with this guy, especially when it came up to doing robberies and stuff like that, and he was he enjoyed the thrill of going along with it, even though he didn't have the initiative to think of it himself. And so that's, and to go along with the midlife crisis thing at the very end, he says, how could I have ever thought that this wasn't enough, when he gets home with, to his wife. So that kind of tied into some of his thoughts in the beginning.
But it's like
so it's a nice
weird message to send, is like you do need a little bit of murder, bit of drugs, a bit, they make you appreciate the real things in life. You know what I mean? Make me happy that I'm doing the iron.
I guess you don't realise what you've got until it's gone, do you, really? But I think had there been no peril, because it did go wrong, like had it not gone wrong and he just continued, that would he have, like, I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? Like, it had to go badly for him to understand that actually what I have is really awesome. And it was kind of like the one reason I liked it is because it's like a little capsule, like this stuff happened, but it has no real consequence at the end. He just returns to his other life like nothing happened. So it's like, it's the perfect kind of like escapism with no actual consequences, and he gets to go back to his life as it was before, with nothing changed, same wife, same kids, good job. So yeah, I think that is kind of the ultimate like midlife crisis, because you still get to explore and play and have this wild time, but you still get to keep everything you have.
Like you got scared straight.
So, yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Had the murder not occurred, he might have just still been doing parties and drugs and stabbings. Yes.
And aliens.
And aliens.
Yeah, and aliens.
And throwing bombs out the window.
There are some strange lights in the sky.
Yeah, I was wondering about those. Yeah.
I was like, in the book? Now?
They're coming for us. Yeah, there is a couple of pages with like a skyline shot, and there's a couple of flying objects.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
well, again, that is what is being talked about by the aliens themselves. Is that's going to happen? Not going to happen for 30 years. You'll be all right. Oh, yeah. Do you think one of the points of the book is to say that we don't create opportunities to have these resets? These kind of moments, because there is a risk, I suppose, when you fall in a certain pattern of life that you never think about anything about it, and you do get caught up in the mundanity of life, and you never actually appreciate the things you have. Because he does a lot of othering in this book, of looking at the other author Dan, kind of judging him, but also jealous of him in some ways, and it isn't that great a life that he has, but because it's not the path that he took, he kind of others it and kind of goes, oh, that could be me. I'm just the guy that doesn't read books, or does read books, or whatever it is that he does. And yet the fact that he does all this kind of does make him reevaluate. Whereas I'd say for a lot of people in life, they kind of get to a certain point that they do the same thing every day, and that's kind of where a lot of the drudgery and a lot of how relationships fall apart and all that sort of thing happens. Like, it doesn't create, there isn't that natural break that makes things be reevaluated. I don't know.
I don't know if that was the point of the book, but it's a good point.
Okay. Well, to be fair, Brubaker doesn't really say that he really knows why he did it. It was kind of an idea. It came to him really more so an idea of a setting and a kind of story they want to tell. And I suppose if you're a storyteller, maybe you're not always clear what the motivations were for you doing it. If you know in the first place where it actually came from. So yeah, I mean, it's a possibility.
No, absolutely. What did you guys think of the actual art style of the book and how it was drawn? I don't know if that's the correct way to describe it.
I love Sean Phillips' artwork. I always have. I've followed him for a very long time now, and I think he's just a wonderful artist with that realistic style, but yet a very good subtlety to the facial expressions, and you get a real good sense of what they're feeling when you look at their faces and stuff like that. And he really knows how to his line work just really pops at certain points when it needs to. And another thing I noticed was he likes to repeat panels at times, but use them in a slightly different way. Because if you look at when he is on the airplane going there, and then on the airplane coming back, there's always a different perspective of how the waitress is giving him his drink, and it's one from the front perspective, one's from the rear perspective, and so he plays with his perspectives a lot with his artwork, and I just love how he does all that stuff. It's beautiful.
Chris, I'm sorry, Robin. Go ahead.
No.
I was to make a comment on the page that Chris is holding up, the one of the fight scene and the almost like he's being torn. It's like there's two of him, and he has that web, like that substance between the two. There's two identities, almost like he's.
So there's a lot of like fluorescent coloring through the book as well, both in terms of like when he's in action, this kind of high contrast stuff, like here in the action, but when he gets back home, it's very muted fluorescent. This kind of like pinks and neons and stuff. Like when he gets back home, like the very calm colors, like again, great for audio, but that kind of color palette. But again, still very fluorescent and neon rather than like reds or blues or anything like that. You know, I think the coloring especially really stands out to me in the entire book.
Yeah, I like the way they break them up when they have the pages where it's completely black and they've just got one section like the lamp or the stars, and it just where they're breaking up parts in the story. I think it was done really, really well. Actually, I liked it because you're like, it almost paced it, which was weird. You can tell I'm not a huge graphic novel reader, but I enjoyed that. But no, what I was going to say a second ago is that actually, I didn't realise what these people had been involved in before. The actual guy in Forbidden Planet was like, oh my god, he's so good and he's done this and I was like, oh, okay, awesome. Like they're probably like super famous, do lots of awesome things, and I've looked at some of his other stuff as well, and it really awesome. Looking into a lot more I think in the future.
That's one of the things caught us, wasn't it? We'd just finished Kill or Be Killed by them, and then your video was put up with you stroking the lovely hardcover that is now signed, and obviously much better than the version that I have. But but we're like,
oh my god!
Again, another deep look into the psyche of a male. But I think we were talking about at the time that we would quite like to explore some more Brubaker and Phillips, and some people have read some of the other stuff like Criminal, etc. And this seemed like a perfect opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, you got a lot.
It sounds like Jared.
Yeah, you got a lot. You got a lot to look forward to if you read more of their
Yeah.
stuff, Robin. It's really good.
Forget the other series. The Fatale was pretty good too.
Fatale,
Grey
Criminal.
Noir.
There was one that took
I
place in
love noir
Hollywood.
stuff.
The something out.
I can't remember.
Fade Out.
The Fade
They're all
Out.
in the
Fade Out.
back. They're all in the back.
Oh yeah, they're all
There you
back.
go. There you go.
Chris is cheating.
I was going to pass it off as like I was some sort of Brubaker Phillips expert, but literally I've got the page open, and you've also got Reckless as well. Which is in the back.
Reckless, yeah.
We talked about Reckless before, which is kind of a newer one.
So, what did you guys think about the friendship he makes with that guy? And I mean, like in general, about the fact that obviously he's able to do so much because of this other guy does things without consequences. Do you think that was, I don't know, not believable, or do you think it allowed him to go further than he would normally? Or what did you guys think of that relationship?
Well, it definitely
So many thinking faces.
it definitely allowed him to do more than what he normally would have. This guy, because like he said in the book, it reminded him of his one of his childhood friends. But I was wondering about this guy too. Do we think he was actually some kind of spy or something like that, or because when he went to the apartment looking for him, and he spoke to the woman there, the blonde who was there that night, she said that she told him that she thought he was a spy because he sometimes used different names, and but she thought he was probably just a businessman. And that's when he found out that, you know, he ended up taking his name at the party there, but Griffin's. But so I'm not sure how much of this guy was act as a businessman, or if he really was something or not. I don't know, because he definitely wanted to set him up for the
crime that was going on, the robbery.
The crime. Yep.
So if he was some kind of spy, and if he was who he says he is, do you think he'd miss him point blank to shoot him? I mean, you think?
Good point. Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder how much of that is just his.
Maybe he's just a criminal.
Either he's imagining this person as someone who could give him almost like permission to do these things, or if he, I guess it's not his imagination because of the bullet, because of the hole in his jacket. But other than that, it seems like a fantasy almost that he's living, or like a, you know.
Are you calling a Fight Club situation?
Yes.
Maybe.
I mean, I thought that right the way through the thing. I was like, this guy isn't even a thing, except when he goes to visit the girls back in the house and they confirm that there was another person there with him. That was a bit the only time I was like, well, this isn't a Robert Paulson situation, let's just say, rather than Sporting. I think I was so glad that it wasn't that, because that was in my head. See if this just turns out to be that, then this isn't anywhere near as interesting. It's the fact that it was all that sort of says that it always was within him, rather than kind of being enhanced because of another person, or the energy of another person. Back to your point, Robin, which is he needed that other kind of device or person to bounce off, or to encourage him, or to take him places that he wouldn't normally go, and get him to drink drinks that he wouldn't normally drink, and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think you do that by yourself. Like, your natural instincts take over at a certain point. If you're a safe person, you just wouldn't be there, but you need somebody else to do that.
Yeah. Quite often criminal pairs are worse because they egg each other on. So.
Just say.
In my experience.
All of my much experience in that, yeah.
All those criminal pairs you find in bookshops and stuff, yeah.
All those bad characters.
Yeah. See an ad in the paper soon. Need a criminal partner.
Maybe at the bookstore. Bring coffee.
Yeah.
Must look good in a suit. No tie needed, you know.
You don't have to be a good shot either, apparently.
Yeah.
So did he kill the author?
Good question.
No. Did who kill the author? I don't think Griffin did it. Well, the original Griffin that we're talking about now, the real Griffin, or not. I think the real Griffin kills him.
Oh, not the guy who's having his.
What's his real name?
Yeah, we did. We didn't say it earlier.
Did we get his real name?
Yeah,
I think it's just referred to as Griffin, isn't he? I don't think that's the only time he really does.
You know, I was wondering that if we ever get his name,
because he doesn't actually check in to the hotel. It's not like he goes up to the desk and goes, "My name is whatever."
Mr. Webb. Yeah, Jonathan Webb.
Mr. Webb. Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, I read it in my brain that he didn't kill the author, that it was the Griffin guy. But yeah, it's vague because he's not sure if he did or not, because he can't remember, can he? So, but I think maybe I was just being nice. I don't know.
Well, on the page before he wakes up in his bed the next day, we have a couple of pages of the lights, and he talks about how when you're doing insane things, usually you wouldn't do otherwise, you shouldn't do awful things. And he talks about who's pulling the strings. Is it the real you? So maybe that's just him, his coping, like a coping thing where he's, I don't know if he did or not. Because he was upset with him, right? Because the author, like, was having to go at him.
Yeah. Having a go at him, yeah. And his reasons for being upset with that author were kind of petty.
He did kind of like, the other did kind of like, call his boss and let him know, like, hey, this guy's goofing off.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, is that? I'm not sure I would kill someone because of that. But
I mean, it's,
glimpse into the male psyche again here about the kind of triggers that will drive a man to no ends. He touted on me. I mean, if you want to ever come over to Northern Ireland and be a tout, Robin, I tell you, you're not going to last too long.
Oh, jeez.
It's the one thing that's beating out of kids very, very at an early age. You don't tell on anybody. Don't tell.
Just saying, I wouldn't tell him. I'm just saying, if someone told on me, I probably wouldn't kill them.
But you're a nicer person than Mr. Jonathan Webb. I think that can be established.
No, she said
probably.
No, she said probably.
You never write anything off completely, can you?
It depends who to tell and what to tell.
Yeah,
it's all relative, right?
It is, yeah. But he was a bit of a douche anyway. It kind of painted him at the start as being this guy who'd just become a successful author and was sort of getting carried away with himself.
Yeah.
Deserved to die, obviously. All the hallmarks of a future psychopath.
Or a future author. Yeah.
But that was...
Ooh.
I kid.
That's why I never made it. No, just...
You gotta kill more people in their hotel rooms in the middle of the night.
Then you would understand it.
Right. Oh, jeez.
Did anyone else get some Total Recall vibes from this? Because he does do things that he normally, like. Do you really think that this, this, what is he, 45? Businessman will pull a knife out of a dead guy's head and go to battle with a secret agent and somehow come out alive?
I sort of read that as reflex. Sorry, it was like a panic thing, like it's almost an out-of-body experience, an adrenaline kind of, because he thought he was about to be killed himself.
I can't speak to the Total Recall thing because I'm very sorry, but don't judge me, but I don't have any experience with that.
You've never seen Total Recall?
No.
Wow.
I clearly do need to watch it because there's a lot of people staring at me right now. But I didn't see it as a reflex thing. He looked like he was like juking the other guy. He just like came forward and then like it was definitely a premeditated. He like walks towards him and then grabs on the way past.
Yeah, I don't mean totally like he slipped and he fell and he managed to find that. I mean it was like a panic situation of us, like he had a second delivered eye himself and he kind of went, right, I choose life.
Yeah, maybe it was. He saw how inept this criminal was by missing him with a gun or something. I can handle this.
but the guy did completely underestimate him. I mean, that was very clear. He had him down as a patsy and somebody that it wouldn't matter what happened. He just had him under control, and he did turn the tables on him, which is where the male fantasy bit comes in. Like, push come to shove, I'm useless, but if I needed to, I could. Just be careful of the guy you don't see coming, Maybe getting a bit involved in the story. I don't know. Projecting a little too much. I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh. Do not put Chris in a corner.
I mean, the thing is, I can almost certainly tell you what's going to happen in that situation, but let's not try and find out. I don't want to be disappointed in myself.
Well, it's quite the character turnaround. You're right.
Yeah.
Because he does go from getting hit by a car and telling the guy, "No, forget it. Don't worry about it. I'm fine," to actually, having a knife fight and killing a criminal. So, so yeah, you got to wonder about that. But he did go through a lot before he got to that point. How much?
Maybe the car killed him, and this is just his brain. This is his dream. Because you do see at the end, when he shaves, he does his best Clark Kent impersonation. Talks about the guys. He talks about he picks up Pickett's book again, and the guy's hitchhiking, but he's also driving the car, and he runs himself over. The question is, which guy is he? The one driving or the one lying dead on the road?
Oh, that's good. Yeah, at some point.
Oh, I'd be really upset if he's dead.
Yeah.
I think at some point
it's the same guy. It's him.
Yeah.
He's the guy driving and the guy dead on the road. So is that him just killing off this version of him, or this?
No.
Or did the alien take over his body? I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out. Because at the last frame of the comic, he doesn't look like he's too he looks like he's staring off in this, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it again."
Yeah. So the last frame, I think, is typical last frame of a graphic novel, to be sure. But it is that idea. Oh, I've just appreciated how much I love life. However, now that I'm back here and I'm living this life again.
No, he promised. He promised.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Again, another glimpse into Neil's psyche. That means not. That's set in stone then, for sure.
Wait.
I'm learning so much. Honestly,
Chris is speaking for a lot of guys tonight. I don't know.
I think it's very clear I'm speaking for myself.
No, I think that's one of the notes I had down. With our lizard brains, are we ever really truly satisfied?
That's a good point. I don't think. Yeah, do you know? I think I agree that. Do you even have the capacity to be okay with what you have? You're always going to be looking for the greener grass, the more exciting thing, the next thing, the happier thing. So yeah, I agree. That's a very good thought.
Who can go to an ice cream shop?
Lizard brains.
Who can go to an ice cream shop and they say pick two flavors? You pick two flavors, and as soon as you have the first bite of the first flavor, you go, "I should have got mint choc chip." Or something similar. You know that's that idea. And is that not the essence of being alive in a lot of ways? Because choice is freedom. You could be anything that you want to tomorrow. It's that idea of, God, my work's going to sack me. It'll be the end of the world, but it also can be a source of great opportunity and inspiration and all of that kind of stuff. Adversity. So, and now he shaved his moustache. Can I think of it? Tom Selleck thought that would be the end of his career, and he did it for a while, and it turned out it was. But he grew it back.
So it's.
Here's a question. Do you think it's more than a little critique by Ed Brubaker to say that literary agents don't read books?
Oh,
yeah. Oh, I definitely.
He wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
I've done this job so long. I read the first chapter and the last chapter and think, well, okay, yeah, bit on the nose, I thought.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. That's. And if you get hundreds and hundreds of submissions, it would it, that it makes sense too. So on some level.
Well, absolutely. I know this isn't totally the same thing, but I often say, like, if your job is to read like admission statements for university, because that's obviously something that I'm involved in, the one thing that you definitely would not do is read every single admission statement coming in. Like, you'd find a system or a way to detect and separate them into piles. And I'd imagine, querying in a lot of ways is the same thing. You're looking for a system to fit rather than having to read a whole book for a week or 2 weeks, wherever it's going to take you.
Yep, I've been through that system.
So is this a critique on the literary world? And is living out a fantasy of, or kind of like this is what they do to authors? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if it's
He murders the author.
Or shoot all the literary agents from the point of view of an author, live a little before they turn down my book.
Because the agent is an aspiring author, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes,
so it's kind of so kind of like they can't do what I do, but they have the power over me, or they killed my dreams. I don't know. Just throwing ideas out. Be pretty on the nose if it was about that.
That was heartfelt, though, Steve. That was.
I don't know. I'm trying.
Well, maybe it's a critique of wasteful, expensive business trips.
Saved his marriage wasn't that expensive. There you go.
So I think we're all in agreement that aliens aren't real, or they were real.
I think aren't. I'm now with
Yeah,
Jared. I think maybe it was the drugs.
That's what I think. I think it's the drugs, yeah.
That's what the aliens want you to think. She had 4 arms. That's all I'm saying.
Isn't that like a goddess from one of the ancient
it's
cultures?
the Hindi thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
She definitely had that look.
Yeah.
She was a cross between the genie out of Aladdin and yeah.
I think you've killed Steve. I think he's done.
Oh, man. So
did it make you guys want to go to a masked party?
No.
No?
To be perfectly honest, if I was going to go to a party and dress up, a mask party's perfect for me, because literally all you have to do is wear a mask. I'm very, very low, barrier entry. If I have to actually buy an outfit, try it on, do all that, I'm not going. Put a mask on. I'm your man. It's my type of party.
Yeah, masks allow you to do things that you might not normally do.
Yeah.
Yeah, anonymity. Yeah. I'm still not sure I would be a good gambler if I had a mask on. I don't think I've got that power myself. But
yeah, me either.
That's what a hustler would say, Robin. Just before you ever meet up with somebody and say, "Oh, I don't even know if I know how to play this game."
Yeah. Oh, I won again. Oh, look at that.
Oh.
Does that mean I won?
Our 4 races
Does that
good.
mean I won?
This is a good hand. 4 races is a good hand. Yeah. I see you coming, Robin. It's fine.
stop ruining everything, Chris.
Oh, I've had too much Paracodol and paracetamol and aspirin and things inside me. I think it's adjusted my brain chemistry.
So one of my other notes here were, are we all just or are we all just Neanderthals at the end of the day, satisfying these urges and needs and justifying our actions, just by not having the consequences and acting on those urges? I mean, are we that simple?
I don't know about that. I think you need that additional impetus of either the mask, the anonymity, or the camaraderie. The urging on. and the high of what comes from that kind of relationship. That would be my guess, so that we're just a little bit more than our urges, I hope.
No, I agree. I think it's too simple, isn't it? You can get away with too much by just saying that it's all because of, your base instincts. Basically, I think we are. It's an easy way out to say that. I would say, like, we're a lot more complicated. There's a lot more going on. You've got the ability to know right and wrong, act on it accordingly within society norms, but I think going back to the front of it, I think it's always a fantasy that you can just do what you want and get away with it. So I think it's I don't think that's where we are, but I think it is a lot of people's fantasies to be able to just run on base instinct.
Even for just a day or two. It's the fact that he did it for a day or two, no bad consequence, and he went home. And I think that's what the last panel is about, is like, he went, well, I got away with it one time.
Yeah. But that's the fantasy, Chris. The fantasy is the no bad consequences.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not reality.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I just wonder.
I can see Chris being on the edge here. I'm a little bit worried about him.
I'm just trying to think how much is too far and how much is like far enough,
Just don't even dip a toe, Chris.
I thought this was a nice, pleasant read for a lot of part, but this conversation has taken my brain down paths I wasn't exactly ready for. I was going to describe
Robin,
this as
you had
nice,
no idea what you got yourself into.
a light read, No,
Yeah.
no, apparently not.
It's just a cold drug, so you're high on them. That's all.
That's it.
Just like this guy, we're going to blame it on the drugs.
Your Honour, it all started when Robin held up a copy of Night Fever on her TBR. Got it? Yeah. It was a slippery path from there.
That it is.
Yeah, indeed. I can see how it could sort of happen to a certain point. Have we never... Right, okay, this is quite serious. This isn't me making fun. Have you never found yourself in a moment in life, I'm not saying you went this far, right, where you have been away somewhere and you just kind of went, what am I doing here, in this place, at this time, or otherwise? That never happened to anybody here? Like, there must be at least one occasion in your life where you're like, why am I not in bed? Or why am I in, how did I end up here in some way? I don't know.
I plead the
okay,
fifth.
that's probably the right answer. I feel like somebody's going to hear this in some sense and say, when were you talking about, Chris?
You mean like there was gaps of time missing? Like you...
Not time. So you sort of went with the flow. So like, I'll use a very easy example. So you're away on a stag weekend, you're away with a lot of friends, right? There's no real curfew or anything. You're not really doing anything wrong. But at a certain point, you're like my one. I'll give my one. I remember standing in the middle of Amsterdam. I hadn't done any drugs or anything like that. But it was snowing, right? It was snowing. It was 6 a.m, and somebody was suggesting that it'd be a really, really good idea to go to a karaoke bar at 6 a.m. And my brain, for at least a second, went, that sounds like a pretty great idea. And then the rational part of your brain kicks in and you go, but also I have a flight in 4 hours, so maybe I should go to bed for an hour rather than doing the karaoke bar thing, because actually I don't think it sounded that great. But that's that moment where you just have the moment of clarity where you're like, yes, you keep on saying yes, a bit like our character Griffin here, and then you have a moment of clarity and go, but no, that's just dumb and ridiculous and stupid.
That was your chance to meet Rainer and get your...
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Maybe what I'm really saying is that I felt like I should have went to the damn karaoke bar. What could have happened?
You could have been Griffin.
No. Yeah. I get what you mean, Chris. There's always been those moments where there's clearly a choice in front of you, and one is clearly the right choice and one is clearly the wrong choice, and there's always that little bit of you that's kind of like, I could just go this way. But obviously, usually, hopefully, most people will go for the normal choice. But absolutely, everyone has that in their
But I suppose
life.
it goes back to what you were saying a while ago. Like it's a bit of a cop out to say that everybody just makes every decision based on instinct. You know what I mean? That's not actually what happens. Our rational selves tend to take over at some point of our lives and go, oh, actually, no, it's not me. I'm all back.
And maybe that's what Brubaker wanted us to take out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Jared, I know we discussed this a little bit earlier, but if I did want to pick up more, which I do, what is the recommendation for me to go with next?
For me, my favorite. It's tough because they're all pretty good. I really love The Fade Out. I thought that was if you like old Hollywood murder mysteries, that was outstanding. But I really like all of them. They're all pretty good. The criminal ones, they're all like separate stories, but they're all just slightly connected. So you can have fun trying to figure out all the connections with that one. And there's a lot more of those. So you can go through those if you like. But I like The Fade Out. That was probably my favorite one. Yeah.
No, I would definitely take that recommendation. The cover looks really awesome as well. Which is just what looked like a detective on a black and white cover from the looks of this, holding a gun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, awesome. Thank you. I'll look that one out.
It's got that L.A. Confidential kind of feel. If you've ever seen that movie, but.
Oh, that's good. See, if you had said you hadn't seen LA Confidential and Total Recall, Robin, I don't think my brain would have been able to cope.
So I feel like what we're going to have to do, Chris, is talk films at some point.
Because Steve said, this reminds me of Total Recall, and I was like, oh my god, I so want to watch Total Recall, like right now. It's such a fun movie. Like, really, really
That's fun.
Yeah. But LA Confidential is top 10 of all time for me. I love LA Confidential.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do love LA Confidential.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So, Robin, have you made a conscious effort to read a graphic novel, or did you was it like a spur of the moment purchase?
No. It was literally spur of the moment. As I said, I was in Forbidden Planet, and I just literally saw it, and I liked the art on the front. I think I've read maybe 4 graphic novels, so it's not something that I pick up a lot because I blitz through them very quickly because it's and then I have to remember to slow down and kind of do the artwork. So yeah, it's not something. But I'd actually, with this one in particular, I actually really enjoyed reading it and then revisiting it and then looking at things. So I think maybe I just need to be more selective, or look at ones that maybe I know I enjoy. So yeah, probably would like to read more in the future for sure.
Lucked out with Brubaker.
How about you guys?
Yeah.
Lucked out with Brubaker. Yeah,
You sure
it's
did,
good.
yep.
Good spur of the moment purchase for sure.
Yeah, I've just bought my copy of The Fade Out. It's fine.
Wow, that was quick.
This is what happens.
I thought I was the only one. Okay.
Well, now I'm left out. All right, now I'm going to go by it now.
Jared probably has it.
So how did you guys... Yeah, Jared. But no, okay, but I know you may have discussed this before, because I know I haven't done graphic novel discussions with you guys, but how did you guys get into graphic novels, or have you always been into them?
Me? I was collecting comics way back in the late 80s, and I did that for 20, 25 years or so. I was I've been reading comics a long time. How I got into them, I don't know. I was in the Air Force and I was bored, so you go to went to a comic book store and I was like, oh, look at all these. And I started with fantasy comics, of course, right? And but then they branched out from there. But it was just a supplement to fantasy reading, and I've always liked good artwork, so it was a natural fit.
I'm gonna at some point loop back to you being in the Air Force, but not right now. But at some point. How about you, Chris?
So my story is not like Jared, not in terms of even the Air Force part, but the fact that I sort of went when I was younger. I had a fascination with anime, and especially not so much anime, the animation part of it, but the style of art that tends to be in anime itself. I remember even when I was doing art in school, etc., doing one of our projects based around a lot of the characteristics and tropes of anime art, and there would have been like a magazine at the time called Superplay that featured a lot of that, even within the context of Super Nintendo. But it wasn't until I was reading the extended universe of Star Wars, and I had read somewhere that there was an extended universe Star Wars comics that was took things in another direction altogether. So things like Legacy, The Old Republic, all of those ones, and I started picking those up alongside the Batman Detective Comics, which I still love to this day. Of all the superhero ones, Detective Comics are the ones that really tick the box for me. Out of all the superhero ones, I can kind of take or leave everything else that there is there. But those two things were the things that I started as my gateway. And then it became into then looking at trades from Image or Vertigo, which are the indie comics. So things like Scalped, Why the Last Man was coming around that time, Chew, and then into things like Saga. So, and then as with a lot of my hobbies, I did it very intensely for a period of time and then stopped. And I've only picked it up recently since Steve kind of started doing the podcast, etc. again. I went, this is a pretty good opportunity. And I did Watchmen sort of in the middle of there as well. And I think Watchmen's a very good point of, because I think one of the top 100 books of all time was released, and Watchmen is the lone graphic novel in that. And then I was like, right, well, I mean, how good is Watchmen? And you get to the end of the Watchmen and you go, Watchmen is very, very, very good, even as a story. And kind of, that takes you down another place and another rabbit hole down at that stage. So.
Note that down.
Oh, yeah. It's very good.
It is very good.
Yeah. Awesome. How about you, Steve?
I started reading when I was young, and I think I read a lot of X-Men stuff, like Chris Claremont, which was, I want to revisit that someday. But as I got older, but I was, I don't know, 9 or 10, the Image stuff blew up. The creator-owned kind of boom happened, and it was a lot less capes and cowls and that kind of nonsense that I never really could get into, other than like Claremont and stuff. So it was a lot different, and the much like self-publishing is for books. It's so many different options with creator-owned, and people were telling the stories they wanted to tell, and just got into. There was just so many options after that it wasn't just Superman and Batman, and it gets old after a while. So then you end up with stuff like this that's really great stories to tell and experience. So, and they're in nice little trades now, which is really, really good. Look good on the shelf.
They definitely do. I have to say, when I go to the Comic-Cons, I always do wander around like the self-published comic stands area, but I always get a bit overwhelmed because they always look really interesting, but I'm never quite sure where to jump in or whatever. So that's one of the things I will try and have to do next time I go, is actually start picking some of them up, because they always, as I said, they always look really interesting. They're always really happy to talk you through them and stuff, but it's still a bit daunting, especially when I'm a bit new.
Because you've also got the big Forbidden Planet in London, which is just like, you go down to that bottom floor, and that is one of the most impressive, if you want to call it book, but just general, like, it's just something you can just sit and soak in how beautiful everything looks. It's quite a large manga section, quite a large, it is kind of incredible. It is the paradise for certain type of geek, I suppose. it's just an awesome store. Like, it's just wow.
Speaking of, I think Robin, I wasn't a huge fan of Saga, but knowing what you are into, like science fiction, I think you will probably really like Saga.
Saga is one of the ones I have tried.
Oh,
that's one of like
right,
4.
okay.
So I've tried 1 and 2, I think. And yes, I did really enjoy them, but my friend lent them to me, and I just, when you just forget to pick up the next one. So, but yeah, no, Saga definitely was something that I have enjoyed, at least the first 2 of them. So yeah, my friend was like, you should try this. So I was like, okay. So yeah, good recommendation.
Really good stuff. It can be daunting too, though. There's so many books. It's hard to know where to start. There's so much continuity and like decades, or even like a century of continuity sometimes to deal with, and you never know where to start or who's who, or so it can be scary. That's what's nice about the creator-owned stuff. It's more contained, and you have just kind of like a story like this where you can jump in and jump out, and I have to know what happened in 1943 with this character to know what's going on. So.
No, again, that was exactly one of the reasons that I really love this. It's just a complete capsule. That's it. It is what it is, and there isn't anything else to it, which I think is why it's one of my an enjoyable thing you can just pick up again and again. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, anything else on Night Fever?
Nope. Nice little tale.
One thing I will say, I'm not sure the cover suits what's inside. As lovely as the cover is, I'm not sure it's completely representative of the story inside. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I don't want to pass judgment on that, because it obviously was enough to speak to getting somebody to pick it up off the shelf and kind of go, okay, let's buy this. But is it? I don't know. I'm not sure if it tells... Given how neon, especially everything is on the inside, and the colour scheme of everything inside, maybe that's the reason why it works. Quite possibly.
Oh, the colors are by Jacob Phillips, which is Sean Phillips' son.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's interesting. A little note.
Oh, that is. See, but never know. Well, he's the best part of the comic for me, if you know what I mean. Like, I think the colours are so spectacular.
He's very good.
They lend a lot to the storytelling.
They do. I absolutely love the whole vibe of it completely. So, no, fully agree.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just find it really entertaining. You can still hear Chris just rubbing the book in the background. It's very tactile.
I feel seen, right?
I didn't mean to call you out, Chris. Apologies.
It's more pointing at something to me that I hadn't realised about myself,
Unless you put the book down now.
Yeah, I'm not touching it. I'm not even going to look at it, right? I can't quit you. There we go.
Oh, that was a fun one. Definitely. Let us know if you want to talk the Fade Out, Robin, if we haven't scared you away with this one.
Yeah.
Oh no, 100%. I was going to suggest if you guys were up for it, I would definitely love to talk about that one as well.
You let us know when.
Depending if it's good. Yeah, sure, absolutely. That sounds good.
Okay, so in the meantime, Robin, where can people find you?
On YouTube, as I said, at Bookends and Biscuits. I'm also on X, I think under Bookends Biscuit, slightly shortened. Always on the Page Chewing forums as well, which is a great place. That's probably it. But yeah, feel free to reach out, say hi.
Chris.
You can find me on my YouTube channel, probably talking movies at the moment, on just my name, Chris Mohan. You can find me on the Page Chewing forums over the next while, and probably catch me on Jared and Steve's channel at some stage, doing either talking Johnny Watch stuff or sci-fi stuff, or lots of good reads going on all the time. It's always a lot of fun.
And Jared.
And you can find me on the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and I'm on the Page Chewing forums, and you can check out my blog at Creative Crossroads on thepagechewing.com.
Yes, be sure and check that out. Really good stuff. So until next time, we will talk to everyone soon. Put the book down, Chris.
Hadn't thought about it in 30 seconds.